Good morning and welcome to the Nova Show. I'm your host, Chris Nova. Welcome to the show. Here at the Nova Show, we do what I want when I want because it's my fucking show. Good morning, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome to the show. How's everybody doing today? We're gonna see if we can brighten things up in here just a little bit. Good morning. There we go. Welcome in. Welcome to the show. We don't have much time today, but I wanted to get some stream in just to keep the rhythm going. But I'm pretty tired. It's been a long week for me, so we'll see how much we actually like get done productivity wise today, but regardless, we're here, that's what's important. And I will be like medium distracted, so we'll see how it goes. So good morning. Okay, so it looks like we have a few people here in chat. Most of which I will say hi to. Also, I'm like wondering why it feels like not as bright as it usually does in here. Let me see what we can do. Let's do this. Maybe. Oops, hold on. Here. There we go. I can probably brighten it up just a little bit. There, that looks a little better. And we turn that down. And we will do just like that. There we go. Okay. Good morning. Okay, so let's see who we have here. We have Beholder, Nahum, Jay, Future, Jamie Dixon, Joshua Corbin, Gardner's Bay, Cole Alt Delete, Matt Wilcox, Based Plant. I thought I saw a handful of others. If I missed you, I'm sorry. But good morning, good morning. Hell yeah, Therapy Day, says Kilimangaro. Good morning, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Chris Nova. Welcome to the show. Who here is new? This is one of the things I want to get better at asking. Every show, I want to figure out who is actually new to the show. Who's been here before, but also who's new is one of the things I'm trying to get a little bit better about asking. So we'll see. Matt Wilcox says, been here before. And Tobald Sleeve says Mernon, and Ren Tree says good morning, I'm new. Hey Ren, welcome to the show, welcome in. So here at the Nova Show, we do what I want when I want because it's my fucking show. One of the things that we do here is we write code sometimes. I don't know, we do a bunch of nerd stuff. We don't really have like a thing that we do. I kind of just like sit in front of my computer and just respond to the internet on Twitch for like an hour or so, and people seem to enjoy it, and that's pretty much the show. We have an open source project that we work on called Aurae, and so I usually try to like do something with regard to Aurae, whether it's even just looking at a PR or making a small contribution or something. I just try to kind of keep it busy, and then, you know, we look at news and we'll do coffee, and actually I have to go. Let me go get my coffee. Let's do coffee. Can we just fucking do coffee for a second? Can we just chill the fuck out and just talk for a second, like as friends? So I made another one of my like hazelnut oat milk latte things because I'm a basic white girl. And yeah, it's just oat milk and sugar-free vanilla and like 90 gajillion shots of espresso because that's how I roll. So anyway, good morning, good morning. Looks like Tobbs on Twitch has shared the Aura command. Yeah, it's just pronounced Aura. Some of my friends who are a little more well-versed in various languages pronounce it as they would in their language. Usually I just say Aura because I feel like that is the easiest for other people to pronounce and it's the easiest to hear. I think that my friends who speak Italian and my friends who understand Latin are more along the lines of pronouncing it as Aurae. And I think my friends from the Nordic countries, particularly Iceland, are going to pronounce it Aurae. And I think all of those are perfectly fine. Honestly, if you just want to call it Aura, I think that is also perfectly great. I was saying Aurae in my head. Yeah, similar to the Italians, Aurae. It kind of just depends. One of the things that I do is I purposefully name things really hard names. One, because they're available, and two, because like it becomes like a perpetual theme of mine. So like for instance, our command line tool is just the letter A and just the letter E next to each other. Most folks don't actually know how to say that out loud, which is very much by design, because it gets people talking about things other than command line tools. Also, I think that anytime you try to give a command line tool a good name, it's going to end up with a bad name. So my thought here is if I just give all of my tools bad names, people will just naturally call it what they will. And then we take the whole like good and bad name out of the discussion. Dip songs, baby. Yep. Anyway, good morning, everyone. Welcome. Okay. Anti-jinx it, lol, says Matt Wilcox. That's right. So anyway, so who here is familiar with Aura in general? This would be the project itself and what it's used for, and who here, so actually a better question, who here doesn't know what Aura is? I know that somebody had dropped like the message in the chat earlier, but I guess I'm just curious who here isn't super sure. Joshua Corbin says, I've managed to run it a bit, familiar, not sure. Me, but I'd love to hear about it. Only I know what I've just read in chat, and Diaz says very little. Okay, cool. So I don't have a good pitch, and I guess like my pitch kind of changes depending on like who I'm talking to. So like today I will give you a very simple pitch. Aura is it's a runtime. It runs containers. You can think of it as a container runtime. It also runs executables like systemd. It also runs VMs like a hypervisor. That's it. It just runs shit. And so anyway, all of that stuff sits behind these gRPC APIs. Okay? So we have like, for example, we have the CRI API, which if you are familiar with Kubernetes, you'll know that this is how Kubernetes runs pods. Okay, so every time you run a pod in Kubernetes, it's translated to this gRPC interface, and that interface is executed. Aura also has an interface for these things that we call cells. Okay, so we wrote this interface. We did not borrow this one from Kubernetes. This one is the one that we came up with. Okay, and here is what we call a cell service. And a cell service has allocate, free, start, stop, and list. And a cell is effectively just like a system daemon. So anything that you would run with systemd is now something that we run with as these things called cells. Okay, so if for example you wanted to like run Nginx, not in a container but with like directly on the host for one reason or another, you could use Aurae as your PID1, and you would express Nginx as this thing called a cell. And it is effectively a abstraction on top of Linux C groups. And you can tweak these configs, you give it a name, and inside of a cell you have these things called executables, and an executable is just a bash command, just like you would define in a systemd unit file or any of the init files. You can give it a command, you give it a description, and there's all these other configuration values you can optionally change if you want. Things like how much of your system do you want to dedicate to Nginx and so on. And so you configure all this, and then you go and you interact with Aurae remotely. You don't actually like SSH into an Aurae node. You just kind of just use remote tools. One option for remote access to a node is this thing that we wrote called Aurae script. And Aurae script effectively lets you use TypeScript as a DSL for the project. So instead of writing YAML, you can actually just use TypeScript, which is really nice because you can do some things in TypeScript that you can't really do in YAML. You can write functions, you can have loops, you can do if statements, you can actually get pretty expressive with your application very slowly. So it can start very simple and then it can grow in complexity as needed. So Aurae does a bunch of other stuff. If you're into the Linux kernel, the stuff that we've been working on recently is like our eBPF work. This is where a lot of my like professional specialty is in like kernel runtime. And so our eBPF work is exciting because we basically get to write these little eBPF helpers in Rust, and we can interpolate or instrument different parts of the kernel as needed. And so this is an example of like capturing POSIX signals. So whenever anything on a system sends a signal to another process, we can hook into that and we can capture that signal and we can do things with it. In the case of Aurae today, we just report it over, you guessed it, our API, because that's all we do. We just basically build an API for everything. So if you go in here to v0, we have this observe service. And if you look here in observe, you can scroll down and you can see we have this get POSIX signal message, and we have a function for it right here, get POSIX signal stream. And that would basically just return a stream of POSIX signals. Would Aurae be able to help us do something like monitor energy usage? Absolutely. It absolutely would. So one of the things that I hope Aurae can help solve is basically giving us slightly better controls and information about what's actually happening on the node. So Joshua Corbin says its main use case is not a personal computer, but I've got delusions of eventually replacing Proxmox with it on my main home lab or desktop system. That'll definitely take a bit of non-Aurae orchestration to pull that off. However, I think that's a completely reasonable goal. I don't think it's going to be that complicated. One of the things that I have been discovering personally as I've been going down this journey is I think that like the boot system is a ton of work. If you start trying to manage hardware and start doing hardware abstractions and making decisions about how a system comes online and actually running on a specific piece of hardware, it can get very complicated very quickly. However, if you kind of just keep the conversation simple, there's really not all that much work that actually goes into having a basic runtime process manager. It's pretty straightforward, right? Like there's kind of this illusion of like everything is this big, complicated, magical mess like you see in the kernel. And the kernel abstracts most of that away today. So really a lightweight process manager isn't that much to take on. And maybe I'm being naive, I don't know, but my immediate observations with the program has been that it's a little bit and delightfully simpler than I had originally thought. It'll take a fair amount of doing to even just re-implement things like root FS mounting and such, even things that systemd has at least made so de facto standards around. I think that's a good call out, right? There's things that like we might do and things that we might not do with Aura. And there's a lot of these things that you and I just think of as like normal Linux things that we don't necessarily even really need when it comes to running a modern Linux system. So exciting to see how things are going to change. Anyway, let's see if we, I mean, even if we can't make a just very small change, I have like 30 minutes before my next meeting. So let's maybe just look at it and see what we can do. Cool, so I just pulled a fresh copy of main from GitHub, which is that repo we were just looking at, and I'm just gonna compile it really quick while I get the rest of my IDE online. So Aura is written in Rust. And so if you want to come learn Rust or hang out with myself and other people who are in the process of learning Rust right now, this is a great project to get involved with. It's a great project to get involved with. Silamangaro says, for running VMs, I'm guessing we're talking about a type 2 hypervisor and not doing a whole OS implementation to have a type 1 hypervisor. Is it just calling other HVs to run those VMs? So I'm not super familiar with what type 1 and type 2 hypervisors mean to you. I hear those terms get thrown around a lot, and I'm not super sure if we have common consensus on those terms in the industry at large. But let me try to just answer what it is, and hopefully you can call it whatever you want and feel most comfortable calling it. The question here, is it doing a whole operating system implementation, or is it just calling other hypervisors to run those VMs? So again, not sure if what you're calling an operating system is what I call an operating system. And I really think that that's kind of like a personal opinion, but Aura will effectively call out to the kernel virtual machine, KVM, which is the same technology tools like Firecracker is built on. And we will be using that, or at least that's our original intent. I guess this is all subject to change depending on how things go once we start actually writing the service. But the intent here is to use KVM. And those libraries are written in C. And we'll call out to that as a way of scheduling VMs. As far as will Aura be a whole operating system? I mean, in theory, you'll be able to run OpenSSH and Bash on it. So there's no reason you shouldn't be able to SSH into an Aura host and navigate the file system with Bash or whatever shell you want to use. And from that shell, you know, do things like schedule VMs. Now, I think that like we have a lot of work to do to get something like that working such that Aura can instrument every one of those shell processes. And that's kind of where we are today with the project. So we definitely have a lot of work to do. It's just now coming together. So folks consider Proxmox to be a type 1 hypervisor despite it having full Debian distro and Perl heavy to stitch things together. Aura will be far more minimal than that. So in my opinion, even more type 1-y. How hard is it to set up Aura to the node in comparative with Kate's? That is the fucking right question to be answering. So to answer your question, it's extremely easy. In fact, that was one of the main reasons why I decided to start the project, was because I was very tired of the amount of complexity that goes into managing a Kubernetes node, especially given what a Kubernetes node is effectively abstracting, the very minimal amount of features in a Linux host that Kubernetes was abstracting. Really, to me, oh, what was that permission error? Hold on. Let me fix this permission error really quick. Dependency anyhow. Failed to open. Okay, cool. So let me sudo e chown. 1 second. One of the things that was really obvious to me was we tried to abstract a lot of node functionality in a way that would work for many people. And I think we kind of created a bit of a rat's nest on the node, if you're familiar with the expression rat's nest. So anyway, what Aurae does is it takes that whole conversation, the network, storage, container runtime, virtual machine runtime, process management, daemon scheduling, eBPF probe loading, kernel module loading, systems upgrades. It takes all of that into scope, and it simplifies this entire process into a single binary called Aurae. So Aurae it's a statically linked Rust binary, and you can run it as PID1. Okay, you can run it as PID1. And this whole statically linked Rust binary that can be ran as PID1 is effectively all you need to run on a node. The only dependency that it has is right now we have this config file here, which is mostly just a comment. This whole header is just a comment, and this is really the only config that we have so far. And it's just TLS. We don't try to put the TLS data in a config file, or you don't need to download some special tool so that you can edit your config file, or there's nothing like that. Okay? You can literally just use OpenSSL and create a key and a cert and a CA, and you can just pass that to Aurae and it'll start. Okay. The only other config we have today is the socket, which this can be, you could replace the socket with something like this. And you could run Aurae on an IP address. You could bind it to all interfaces. You could tell it to listen on a port. You can run it just like a regular server, and that's it. And once that's online, your node's online. Okay. Everything, if you were to run Aurae with config like this over a network, all of the client tools and command line tools that we have can just talk directly to that, and your node's online and you can schedule work. So one of the things Aurae does not do is it doesn't try to be an orchestrator or a scheduler. So we're definitely not in the business of making decisions about where to put various things. And we're definitely not in the business of trying to recreate the Kubernetes control plane. I think that the whole intent of the project is to make those conversations about control planes easier and more exciting in the future. But the project itself doesn't actually try to solve that problem. That's out of scope. Will I personally solve that problem? Yeah, of course. I mean, I have stuff in mind. I'm going to build stuff there. I just think that this component of the system needs to have a strong scope. And one of the big problems I want to fix is this concept that your node has awareness of your control plane. I definitely want to live in a world where the node is just kind of dumb and doesn't really need to know anything about any other systems, and is just kind of like this node that can exist completely independently of other things. And so that is definitely what Aura tries to do, is it just makes the node useful again, and it simplifies the node. So that's kind of the intent here. So I think my sea lion is definitely frozen. So there we go. Let's try to reopen Sea Lion and see what we get. Oh yeah, maybe this is too memey, but I saw y'all had an open issue for what default port should we use, and my pitch is 26283 because rust iron oxide. Yeah, feel free to add that to the issue and we can definitely take a look. Okay, so here's, in fact, one of the things that I need to do today, speaking of Aura issues, I need to go respond to the flake issue really quick. I hate to tell y'all, but I definitely don't think we're going to be writing code today. I think I got it to compile, and that's about the furthest we're going to get with the project today before my call starts. I need to respond to this. Isn't really package management a log file like you mentioned before. I will say, even though I haven't contributed to Aura, having a flake do use is going to be super inviting to new contributors. Because I won't have a fuss with development libraries, I'll just have to run nix develop and be ready to go. And not just nix OS. But please don't get rid of this is a strong case for keeping the files. Again, this is a strong case. With keeping the files in the repo. I do have a question though. So basically the situation here is there's these like flake files that live in the repo. I don't fucking know why they're there. I don't use Nix. I don't care about Nix. It seems like other people might want to use it, and according to this person, you know, Evan, you know, please don't get rid of the files. Like, they're, you know, it makes sense to have them live in the repo. It's going to be super inviting to new contributors. Like, these are all great cases for keeping the files here. And honestly, like, that's really all I needed to hear. Like, if people are going to use it and it's going to be inviting and welcoming, then like we should just like keep them around. Okay. Now here is the problem though. So it's okay. So it sounds like these files are used so that it's not package management, so that what is the Nix? Is Nix a package manager? I think it is. Reproducible. This looks like a package manager. What do I call this? Is this, I mean, this is a package manager. It allows you to search for packages, right? can say again, cool. Looks like Nyx is a package manager. Package search, service. And allows folks to public packages. Cool, and I actually want to get this URL here. I am rationalizing Nyx as an alternative to something like RPM or apt-get. Cool. Basically, my concern here is that the project currently only supports Makefile as a way of building and compiling from source. There are a number of housekeeping items that we leverage the Makefile for. Such as, and so we'll put generating the Rust files from the Proto APIs. What else do we do? Generating the macros. Good morning, everyone. Hey, Azillion. So let's see. Let's go with So if we run make by its make is just install, and then install is muzzle. We'll put this. We'll back here. Muzzle tool chain is installed. What else do we do? Generating UKI material for development. Come on. But only makes sense to keep them around if someone is willing to maintain, and that person shouldn't be Chris, says Nahum. Sounds good. We have 15 minutes until I gotta run, so maybe we'll just write this issue and I'll talk about Aura, and that'll be what we do today. Sorry, it's not more exciting. I wish I had more time to hang out with y'all, but unfortunately this is all the time I have. Okay. Is that we end up drifting from the supported make targets by using a bespoke package manager such as Nyx. Does Nix... What happens if Nix is unable to build the project? Is that a issue the maintainers need to solve? Does Nix use cargo? Say what dependencies can we guarantee are on the system when using Nix? I guess what I am getting at is that these files are very clearly wanted and welcoming to new users, and that makes me want to keep them around. However, I am not sure on who is going to own the maintenance burden, and I am worried that people will have some incorrect expectations about the project if they try to build it using an independent build system that doesn't work the same way the rest of the project works. My experience maintaining, I can never spell the word maintaining other large open source projects tells me that the moment something drifts from a uniform way of doing something is the moment the pissed off users and GitHub issues start flocking to the project. We don't want that. We don't want to break people's Nix builds. Project checks, cool. This is a huge concern. I'm not necessarily opposed to like doing something like this. I'm just mostly just like, you guys need to understand like the implications of something like this, right? Like if we were to go put Aurae on the Debian package list today, people are going to download it. People are going to try to run it, and then it's going to break, and they're going to be like, well, what the fuck? You suck, and we hate your project. And then for the next decade, I'm going to be undoing that perception that Aurae is broken, right? Like, additionally, this is like the same problem we have when like people come up to our project and they're like, oh, it's a Rust project. Let me type cargo build, and then it breaks. And then they open up all these issues and they're all pissed off and confused and think our project sucks because they're like, well, I typed cargo build and it didn't build. And it's just like, yeah, because we have to do all this other stuff. So we put it in the make file. So like, I'm even considering doing things like basically checking arg0. And if somebody types cargo directly without make, just fucking breaking and just throwing a big warning that says like, danger, we do not support fucking cargo, fuck off, go run the make file like God intended. And like, there's a whole other discussion to have about whether or not the makefile is the right move or not. But like, all of that is kind of small potatoes compared to like the bigger discussion, which is like, I don't really care what we're building it with, whether it's cargo or make or nix or gmake or cmake or whatever. I just care that we're all doing the same thing. That's it. That's really all I care about. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, I'm ranting. So yeah, and so like Jono Codes and other people are like, FYI, you know, the flake file and do this and do that. Like, the problem isn't my ability to understand how to solve these problems. I'm sure I'm more than capable enough about going and reading about whatever the fuck a flake file is and why they need to exist and going and learning about it. That's not my problem. My problem is understanding who specifically is going to maintain these files. Jono Codes, are you going to maintain these files? Will you add your name to the owner's file in github.com/Aura runtime/Aura? And when these files break, you like have a commitment to me and the rest of the folks in the community that within 14 days or less, you're going to come and fix it? That's what I care about. I don't, the problem isn't my ability to like understand how to do something. The problem is my ability to understand who is going to maintain them and what and how they're going to maintain them. That's what I care about. And again, like, it's not like I really care if people want to use Nix. What I care about is that we're using the same thing. Okay. Sorry for ranting. I'm gonna go to work now. I love you all. I gotta go. Thanks for hanging out. I'm gonna go get ready for work. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Good rant. Good rant. Jono Codes, if you do want to come and be a maintainer, like, join the Discord and sign up. Like, we're happy to have you. That would be great. But I do love you all. And I thank you all for being here, and we will see you all next time. So have a good day, and I love you. And we'll see you all next time. Thanks again. Nothing but love and support and respect for everyone. I'll see you next time.